Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. I'm Desi and I'm glad to say tonight I'm joined by the regular crew of the Man Across the Water. Good evening, Monty Burns.
Evening, Desi. Evening, lads.
Thank you for finishing your dinner very abruptly there. I can only apologise. Podcasts wait for no man, as they say. Yes, and your financial expertise may be called upon later. I think there's a few people grumbling about the board yet again. But we're also joined, I'm glad to say, by Hector Bandido, the man in the suburbs, the tactical genius of the team, no less. Good evening, Hector.
God bless you, Desi. Good evening.
See, I'm bumming you up because you know we're about to have a fight. See, as Monty's already discussed in the preamble. So we're just getting prepared. And last but certainly not least, we have the pilot of the Tarrier Carrier of the good old days, Ralph Malf. Good evening, Ralph.
How you doing?
Welcome, Ralph. So, Ralph, who have you got behind this? For people who are listening, you can't see. Ralph's got his dog behind him. He's also got his pipe in front of him, so be warned. Who have we got?
It's Charlie.
Or Charlie?
She's all kind of happy to see me because I'm in early tonight.
Oh, well done. Well, it's the dog's gain is Amazon's loss. But okay, so here we are. We're gathered here, unusually for a Friday night, but it has been a rather action-packed session since the last time we chatted. So I believe the last time we spoke was just after the Real Betis game, in which we called the podcast was called Brain Fart CSC, in light of what Monty's analysis was, whereby we literally took a 2-0 lead and then just collapsed for some unknown reason. Since then, Hector, have you been enjoying the Celtic performances? We'll come on to specifics soon enough, but in general, how have you been as a Celtic fan?
Oh, you always start with me, you bugger.
Fans love it. The fans love it.
God almighty. Right, okay, so Betis recovered. There was positives. We lost 4-3. Wasn't great. I think you actually tried to say it was positive. I went, no, there was some encouragement there. Livingston away, always, let's cut to the chase. Livingston away is always hard. Has been for the last 3 or 4 seasons, right? Their record there is abysmal. In fact, if we're not won there for 3 seasons, it's ridiculous, right? So it's not just Ange. We've had issues with Rodgers there, issues they were learning as well. But the frustrating thing was that we tend to create chances when we've lost away at Livingston. I genuinely don't know if we created one clear-cut chance. I think Ajeti, of all people, edge of the box, second half, had one great effort, low in the corner, some save. They scored, and then Hart made an incredible reflex save. The guy had a header, was it 5 or 6 yards in front of goal? So we never looked at scoring. And, it could have been 2-0. Nobody would have complained about it. To beat us fair and square. Rafe Rovers League Cup, first 25 minutes wasn't great. Then after that, it was a training session. They won easily, 3-0. Dundee United last weekend. I've heard people, and the thing that frustrates me is sometimes people pigeonhole themselves into having to always see a particular view. And what I mean by that is that before just as a manager's announced, if it's not a universally approved position, some folk will always stick to that position. It's a weird behaviour. I've never ever got this. I think every Celtic manager, whoever they are, but obviously within reason, there's always an exception. You always want to do well and always encourage. But there's always this group. And I think, Desi, you and me, we didn't support the appointment of Ange for the reasons that he'd never worked in Europe, I think was the main one, right? Nothing against the man personally. But see, once he was appointed, I think we want him to do well. But you get a group that will never, it's weird behaviour. But conversely, you get a group who, and I hate using the term happy clappers, but who are the ones who always see a positive. And like life, it's just be honest and just call it as you see it, right? So the point I'm trying to make is this: Dundee United, with loads of chances, we should have thumped them. Wait a minute. Actually, we didn't create lots of chances, right? Ajeti missed a sitter to make it 2-1 in the first half. I think Turnbull outside the box hit the bar in the second half. Jota outside the box hit the bar in the second half. And the only other clear chance we created was Rogic's header, I think it was, wasn't it? With about 5-10 minutes to go. About 8 yards out, he hit the bar. That was it. The United had a Stonewall penalty. I appreciate there was talk that Starfelt was probably felt in the build-up. If that was us, could you imagine we didn't get that penalty and probably a red card? We'd have been gone berserk. Masonic conspiracy and all that sort of stuff, right? But the last minute of the game, they were through and goal, a 2v1. All the guy had to do was pass it inside for a tap-in. So we could have lost that game. We were dire last Sunday. Then we come to last night. And now, I don't know anybody who thought we'd win last night based upon recent performances, based upon thinking Kyogre and McGregor were out, so surprised to hear they were part of the team. Based in Joseph, a creation fullback, unavailable, Julian unavailable, Forrest unavailable, a disjointed team. Nobody expected us to win. But I think what we did expect was to put a bit of fight up and make it competitive from a scoreline perspective. With lots of chances, and by the way, their keeper had a great game. He really did. But I didn't think they had to play well. They beat us 4-0. I actually think, that's what I think. And I know people can go, the goals change games. Well, hold on. We're 2-0 away to Betis. Betis come back easily. Our last Europa League games will be 2-0 up away to, is it Lille? 2-0 away to Milan. Away to Sparta Prague. And each game we get fucking pumped. So I think last night Joe Hart saved us for losing 6 or 7 goals last night. And what was frustrating watching the game, we've got a WhatsApp chat and everything else. What was really frustrating about it is that the team needs a bit of confidence. And last night wasn't a game, I think, for going gung-ho. It was probably about, well, hold on, let's try and consolidate. Let's look at options. Let's make us hard to beat. Let's look at a plan B or a plan C. And right now what Ange hasn't demonstrated, and we've discussed this before, SoFi is a one-trick pony. Right. One style of play, and that, I know I'm taking a little bit of time here. One style of play, and that's it. I'm sorry, but in this day and age, in a professional level, elite level in Scotland, playing European football, as a coach, you can't have a plan A and no plan B. Or, sorry, I take that back. Your plan B when you're 3-0 down is to bring on 2 holding midfielders. Yeah. It doesn't make sense, right? And we all want Ange to do well. We wish him extremely well, but so far, especially since the last 4, I'm really discouraged with it, and he's got to be more pragmatic than what he's shown.
Right, okay, that's right. That's a good roundup of where we've been the last few weeks. I'll come to it. I'm interested to hear Ralph and Monty's opinion, as in from afar looking in, so to speak. Ralph, so especially you're involved in the Neil Lennon. Is it still called the Neil Lennon Celtic Supporters Club in Stoke, or it had to change its name to Why Is That Wee Shite on BT Sport tonight? CSC.
No, we've kept the name because it would probably cost us too much to get new T-shirts and things like that.
So what's the view then, Ralph, between you and your pals talking? Because again, this is what we're wanting to get, the kind of overall view of all the supporters out there, rather than just the wee kind of echo chamber. So how's your discussions been like looking in from afar?
Again, it's split down the middle. There are some that just want to remain positive, that want to see the good in what's happening, and there are others that have had enough. The older ones obviously remember what happened under previous managers that played the same way and stuck to our guns. But he's not had enough time, and I think most of us are prepared to wait. But then we're not up there every week. We're not going to work and listening to fans or other clubs. For us, it's a lot easier just to watch a game, talk about the game amongst ourselves. And there's nobody at my work that will talk, take the piss. There's nobody at most people's work that will take the piss. So it's kind of a splendid isolation in one sense. But it's awful depressing. That's the only thing. No matter how, and I've tried to be as positive as I can since the start of it.
You have, apologies, but you have been on a bit of a roller coaster, a smaller, slower roller coaster, rather than a dramatic big one, Pepsi big one in Blackpool. But I have, the diary has kind of went up and down a little bit in moods regards, and you weren't too enthusiastic then. It was let's get behind the block, and then it was, there's questions needing asked here. And I think you're also suspicious of how things haven't really changed behind the scenes either at this point.
Yeah, I'm still not entirely sure that he's got as much control here as what he's had at other clubs.
Yeah.
Because I still think that in keeping the backroom staff that we've kept, there's always going to be, I know what you're saying, Ange, but see here, we don't do it that way. And that might cause a reaction which has prevented that wee bit of pragmatism coming in. I'll do it my own way, I'm not listening to them, where he's now ignoring advice as opposed to even taking a wee bit of it on board. And as the team starts to get bad results, the players who initially bought into him, from what I heard, they were all delighted, they loved him, and these doubts are going to start creeping in. And if there are people, I'm not saying there are, but if there are people within the setup that are, look, we told him this, we told him that, it's going to affect confidence. But I suppose until he's got his own team playing his own way, and I read your article today, and it's spot on. We've only got 3 or 4 real good players. The rest are the ones that we couldn't sell in the summer. We need to upgrade to players that he's got faith in and have got faith in him. Otherwise, we're going to be doing the same next summer as what we did last summer.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing that. And, of course, that does come down to negligence above. And that does come down to us sitting now in a situation where losing the league will put the new Ibrox club on a sound financial footing. Mm-hmm. We've allowed them to come back, and as I say, that's a different argument altogether. And it does make you wonder what is going on behind the scenes. But for now, I just want us to start winning games. That would be nice. I'm old enough to remember when we did.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the topics I was discussing with the guy I go to football. But you picked up a few points there, especially the league, winning the league and the Champions League. I think it's almost guaranteed qualification. I think there's a slight caveat depending on who wins this year's. They've got to be in their top 4 or whatever in their own league or something. It's there is a slight caveat. It might mean we have to play one qualifier, but it is that. But just to take it back a little bit, Monty, you have tended to be the guy with a longer term vision, and I mean that in a positive way. I've been celebrating your kind of patience over the last day or so, talking to people. So are you perturbed? Are you worried about this at all, Monty? Are you just seeing this? This is just another. We're still in the darkness. We're still like my article today was saying if we stick with it, we'll eventually stumble into the light. And if we come out the light, then we'll be a modern football style team. We'll not be an old fashioned blood and snotters Scottish team. We'll be a modern European football team. What's your thoughts, Monty?
In listening to the lads and putting up the case for the prosecution, I had to choke back my own sort of reaction on it. That you're just a bunch
You're going to see your tears there. Choke back your tears.
It was well made. It needed that background music that you used to play.
I'll get it. I'll go and get it.
And the other part of my head was going, fucking miserable old farts. Let me give you a quote here, right? He likes his fullbacks to go forward and generally plays with 2 wide men, and that makes for all-out attacking football. If you say to him, would you take a boring 1-0 draw or 1-0 win or 4-4 draw? 9 times out of 10, unless it was a cup final, he'll take the 4-4 draw. That's Mark Bosnich talking about Postecoglou. Right? And I've had, listening to Hector, and you know me and the stats and all that, and we know how much Hector loves stats. I went and I dug up the very anti-Postecoglou and Celtic BBC stats. Sometimes they're a bit flaky, but they're the best that I can find right now. So if you look at the main, it's 3.5 months into a job with a complete rebuild. Half of the team isn't his. A third of his starting 11 are missing. And we're still doing the following. And I know lies down lies in statistics. Dundee United, 63% possession, 23 shots, 7 on target. Livingston, away from home, bogey team, and I got called out on that on Twitter about a bit of bogey team, 79% possession, 16 shots, 5 on target. Right? All these stats mean fuck all because we dropped 4 points.
What was the score?
Exactly. Now, Now you're back to, and I had this conversation just before we started with a good mate of mine, Snaffle Taffle. He follows you, Tim. I think Richie, you and him were talking, or Ralph, you and him were talking last night about it.
Yeah, we were actually. Yeah.
We had this debate. What's your why? Where it's a lovely piece of, it's like psychology and life bullshit. It's not going down the David Brent route. What's your why? Why do you support Celtic? We had this lovely. I wish the fuck we could have got him in the podcast. A really, really good debate. Do you support Celtic just to win with shit football and 1-0? Or do you support Celtic for the whole tapestry and pageantry and the thing that it is about you? I've said this, I think, on the last podcast and the one before. First time in years, I genuinely sit down to a Celtic match and I fucking can't wait. And I'm laughing my chops off when Leverkusen have the ball in the back of the net after a minute and it's disallowed for an offside. And I'm watching us go gung-ho like primary school football. And it feels like, oh, this could be fucking brilliant if we can win a couple of games. So, if I look at it statistically, and Postecoglou said this, how we're playing, how we're going about it. If we look at it statistically, are we on the right route? Absolutely. Do we have a guy that's maybe a little bit new to the environment, and Hector and Desi's concerns at the start of the season are valid? 100% we do. Do we have a media whipping all us up into anti-Postecoglou thoughts?
No.
I don't think so. But what we do have, though, is a bunch of instant gratification wanks.
No, don't blame the supporters. I'm sorry. Don't get down that road. No.
I'm not blaming them. I'm pointing out a reality that there is a ton of people who
on
Twitter.
Winning, come on.
But no, not Twitter. Just even in general. And they turn up very, very quickly. And it's nothing to do with all those good points that Ralph made. You win the league this year, you get a ton of money. But we don't budget for that ton of money. We just budget to have a shot at getting that ton of money.
We're sitting sixth in the league.
To be fair, Mon,
Or alternatively, we're 7 games in and we haven't hit form and we're 6 points off top. Well, where do you want to look at it?
I want to look at the fact we'll get 10 points out of 21 points.
Aye, and
right? And if this had been last season, he's lucky that we're not 11 points behind.
No, and these are all well-made points, but you can't take that. You can't take that overarching statistic in isolation of everything else.
But domestically, European football, for me, particularly against Leverkusen, he's got more scope, right? It's frustrating getting pumped for nothing. Nobody likes getting pumped for nothing, right? That's football. We could have scored a few goals, but they could have scored a few goals more. But domestically, right, is what is really the big thing this season. It always has been, because back to Desi's point, to win, well, number one, to win the league, right? Domestically win the league, and 2, win the league is automatic entry. By the looks of it, 99% certain for the Champions League. So for the club to grow and the guaranteed 40-50 million, it's pretty obvious why, right? But domestically, the performances. And let's bear in mind, he's lost this and lost that. I absolutely agree with you. Of course I do. And I think on our WhatsApp, we talk about that, right? McGregor, Kyogre, they're massive players. But let's be brutally honest here. At home to Dundee United, right? I know you'd said you'd cut the last 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But we never had, see this stats. That doesn't reflect reality. There wasn't all these clear chances. But hold on. And a lot of our passes are between the 2 centre backs. See, it'd be interesting to break that down. See how many times Starfelt and Carter Vickers passed the ball to each other, right? But hold on, just be second, right? But my point's this: and I've said this consistently. It's a results-based business. Let's get back to the last few podcasts. He needs results. Ralph's point there, absolutely needs results. That buys you time. What doesn't buy you time is not being pragmatic when you're missing key players. When you've got your best players, absolutely, then you go, you're encouraged to do what you want to do. But when you've not got them, how about showing a bit of common sense? A lot of adaptability, making us harder to beat. Put an extra number 6 in there, because we'll create chances. Give us a bit of solidity. But he's not doing any of that, right? And I think as a coach in this day and age, you've got to be flexible and show you can do a plan A, a plan B. You don't always have the cards you want to play. That's him right now.
But this is sorry to jump in. This is you're hitting on the crux of it. How long does it take you to implement a plan B or plan A? How long? How long would you take on your plan A?
No, but hold on a minute. No. But see when I say plan. No, but see when I say plan B. Hold on, I say plan B. I don't mean.
Let me round out the context. His plan A is a complete departure for practically every single player that he inherited. Every single one of them. They've never played a system that is all out attack. They've never played a system with inverted
apologies. Just to put the tag on that, it's not just the players inherited, it's also the players he's bought. His system is totally unique in football. So it's not as if he's bringing in anyone who's used to playing that system.
So, new system, so a new system that is reflective of Guardiola at Bayern Munich, we're told. Inverted fullbacks were at Munich, he had Philip Lahm and the other guy on the right side, I don't know who it was, on the left side. My point is, if you're trying to build a plan A, the first sense that you deviate from plan A, you lose the people who are believing in you. So you've got a sense, I'm building this and I'm going to fucking stick with it until you get it. But the minute the shit hits the fan, you're going to panic and go, no lads, just hoof it long. He's gone.
No, it's not the shit hitting the fan. No, but sorry.
Hector, give me 1 second, sorry. But the most famous phrase in warfare is all plans collapse in the face of the enemy. I mean, so again, and like, I'm fully with you. We've discussed this already.
Equally, I mean, Sun Tzu, victory is achieved before you enter the battlefield.
Exactly, but like Ange is an idealist, and he's got this.
Doesn't make any sense.
He's got this ideal.
What's the point in having a battle if you've already won? You might as well just shake hands and go to the pub.
That's called diplomacy.
But see this thing about, but see back to the point there about totally changing when it's not going your way. No. The pragmatism is based upon not having your quality players available to do what you want to do, right? Kyogre and McGregor are by a mile our two most important players to how he wants to play. McGregor for the obvious reasons, right? That number 6, 8, 10, anywhere. The guy just keeps the ball moving fast. And Kyogre for what he does up front, his movement, his creation, his pressing, everything. They two are the people who galvanise the team. So with your two best players out there out for a period of time, your Forrest, who his record's phenomenal, just phenomenal. One of the most experienced players is and then Julian. And I know people blah 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 blah. Listen, compared to the centre backs, he wins everything in the air. So the spine of your team. If you're missing the guys, right, and you're struggling for results, all we're seeing is sometimes a tweak. I'm not saying you turn full circle and go the opposite direction. It's called common sense. It's a tweak. So here's an example. He could have played a Beaton or a McCarthy at number 6, right? Not played either one of Rogic or Turnbull and put McGregor in 10, 8 out of 10. That's a bit of common sense. Because Rogic, what can Rogic and Turnbull not do? They cannot track back. They've not got the energy to play the role that we need. They don't have it. Domestically, probably. European terms, they can't do it. So when PSG played Man City, was it Tuesday night? They played Man City Tuesday night. 2-0 to PSG. Man City had all the play, Pep's team, all the play in the world. But PSG have got 3 guys up front, arguably 3 of the greatest forward players on the planet right now, Messi, Mbappe and Neymar. But Messi, Neymar never come back once, never track back once. And back when he feels like it. So in essence, PSG had 3 midfielders, right? Verratti, the Italian guy, just a grafter, an absolute grafter. Herrera, who Man United got rid of. And Guai, 3 mids who covered every blade of grass in that ground. Because the guys up front can't graft back. Who did we have in midfield? We've got Callum McGregor, wonderful player. You've got 2 passengers there who, when the ball's going forward, don't be wrong, they can create domestically, they can excite. What do they offer against a team like that? They can't cover, but this is the pragmatism I'm talking about. You have got to have horses for courses and say, well, hold on a minute, if we lose possession against a good team, but hold on, against a good quality team, they've got to work their socks off that midfield 3 and see if you get 2 that just aren't doing it. And you know that as the manager, why play them?
So who do you replace them with?
Yeah,
He's had one transfer window. He's had a limited budget and a CEO who looks like he broke the mold and basically had to walk because of it. So with the existing squad that he has right now, who do you replace those 2 midfielders with?
I'd have changed one last night.
But Hector,
easily before the game.
Hector, this is the crux of the matter. It's like a watch. You can't take out one part without the whole system collapsing. If you replace a Rogic or a Turnbull, would be the first choice for most people at the moment, with a Beaton or a McCarthy and pull them back to sit at the centre circle, which we think would be pragmatic, then that suddenly disrupts the whole Ange Ball's philosophy. Because then the right back's going to run into him where he's meant to be. No, that's the idea. But we expect Ange expects players to find space. At the moment, we're not finding any space. We just leave space. I mean, like,
that was my second point, Desi. And I put that in the chat with us last night. My second point was that was one. A McCarthy or a Beaton. Sorrow the experiment, please, God, no more. Please, Ange, please stop. And thankfully last night he stopped. It only took him how many games not to play him again, right? But if you put in one of them, at least it gives a little bit of solidity. The second bit's the fullbacks. Come on to fuck. Come on. The two of them get into centre midfield. What on earth against a quality team is this?
Wait a minute, Monty.
No.
Let me ask a question that brings this in, because this is something that's really annoyed me recently, and that is Ange's use of the squad, right, and the rotation of the squad. Can anyone explain to me, and I'll let you go first if you like, Monty, how he is managing to select the current fullbacks that he's selecting? He brings Bolingoli in, and then immediately Bolingoli's dropped again, disappears. Bolingoli was not in the European squad, so there was no chance of him appearing last night. Montgomery gets dropped at Livingston, then gets brought back in last night at left back, up against Frimpong, who can run like the wind. Montgomery did not have a clue what he was meant to do last night. He was totally lost. You could see him standing around about that centre circle going, Ralston just runs like a maniac. He's meant to, like, it looked great for the first 10 minutes because he's tackling, he's sliding, he's like big eye. But any clever defender doesn't need to do that. And then you leave massive gaps at the back. And then Juranovic, he gets injured because he's playing at a position. I just don't understand Ange's use of the squad, let alone the midfield, Hector. What about the fullbacks and that? If you're looking for steadiness and people learn the system, Monty, how does that work?
I think, again, you're looking at squad deficiency, and I go back that he's had one window. He's reasonably well backed. I think the recruitment was excellent in the window, personally. But he needs at least another, in my opinion, another two. And then it's his squad. And I don't think, if we fall into the trap, like, let's be honest, you really want it down to brass tacks, we will finish at worst second this year. At worst. Second gives us a shot at the Champions League. That's it. Ignore whoever finishes first. Just fucking ignore it. So at worst, we will finish second and have a shot at the Champions League. We're healthy, cash-wise. If you look at it from a business point of view, we'll be able to back him in January. And I said it a couple of podcasts ago, as long as we're in touching distance come the window in January, he'll have 8 months of working with players. They will actually understand his system. McGregor talked about it last night in his post-match interview. He said, we need as a team to move collectively. And your point on the two centre-halves passing it to each other, McGregor touched upon it. There's a fraction of a second when the pass through the lines is on for these guys, professional footballers. And we're not sharp enough yet to take it. There was a point at which the fans actually, Joe Hart had the ball at his feet, and I was shouting at the fucking TV in the house. No one, all those passengers, you just pointed out, Turnbull, Rogic, they hid. Hart did not have options. Eventually, I think it went out to the right and Leverkusen closed us down and the ball went out for a throw. This notion of movement and moving collectively takes months to get in your head. But professional footballers work on, I remember when I did my B license, they talked about pro footballers work on autopilot. They genuinely move on autopilot, and that meter or 2 meters left or right, the first touch, knowing where your teammates are, how you break lines, we're not there yet. We haven't worked it out as a group. So to your point, Desi, rotating Montgomery for Bolingoli, who has no future at Celtic, maybe it'll be
him. So how can Montgomery learn the system? You know, this is
so you persevere. You persevere, and it's this notion. You see
Yeah.
if you've got, you see if
So
it,
why play ball and goalie? That's what I mean. This would really annoy me.
One game out of the blue, then nowhere.
Yeah.
But maybe Montgomery was injured. Maybe he was burnt out. He's 19
Oh,
years
he's on the bench.
It's too much for
On the
him.
bench.
You've all of these things that you don't know. And there's a classic piece of psychology in that. What's your why? You see, if you've got a why, you're prepared to endure as much how as needed, right? And there's a paradox given what happened to us in the summer with Eddie Howe, right?
It just seems more you make excuses.
Well, no, I just see it very, very differently to you guys. I see a long-term vision that for me, Celtic excite me watching. It's fucking brilliant. And
Monty, let's cut to the chase. You're making excuses.
Ralph, no, let's
football is
bring
about
Ralph.
entertainment.
Let's
I
bring
love
Ralph.
it. Right?
Ralph, as a man who's been in a car crash, let's bring Ralph in. As a man who's been in a car crash this week, how are you watching the Celtic car crash in motion at the moment? Are you optimistic we're going to come up wheels on the road, or do you think we're going to be left spinning in the air?
I think we'll get there. But I think there's an awful lot of work still to be done. And each defeat sets us back a wee bit. Each little bit of doubt that creeps in about the system sets us back a wee bit. And the way forward has to be that everybody buys into it. And there will be players there that know they've not got a future at Celtic, even that they're being played now. They're not going to buy into it 100%. They know that they'll be away the next window or the window after that. They know that they're on the short list to be replaced. This is going to be it's probably, we've always talked about going through a period of transition, but in the past, the period of transition's maybe been 6 months. This is going to take a lot longer. In earlier podcasts, we talked about a change of culture, and the whole thing needs changing. Even from the youth set up, everything needs changing. Everything needs gearing towards the final. I was going to say the final solution there, but that was something completely different.
Please no. You mean the John Barnes vision of from the youth team up to the first 11, they all play the same system?
That's the way Ferguson built his dynasty at Manchester United.
It feels like John Barnes this season, doesn't it?
It does a little.
There is a similarity in that when Kyogre was injured.
Look at his face. Yeah. Sorry, folks. You're on a listen to this, but we're watching this on Skype video, and Monty took a wee 10 seconds to suddenly realise what Hector and I had said there, and his face just fell, and you could see the hook. You can see the hook right in his top lip.
He was multitasking as well. He's away doing important business stuff, and he suddenly, as you say, this delayed reaction.
Business empire, and he suddenly heard the words John Barnes. Barnesacoglu. That's what we're going to call the podcast. Barnesacoglu.
Oh, imagine you're going to get some of a response to that one alone, aren't you?
Oh.
That's just fair.
Seriously, you gotta. If you're thinking that Eddie Howe would have fixed this and it would have been all good.
Oh, don't deflect. Don't deflect. Focus on Ange. Ange has spent more money than every other team combined in Scotland this season by a distance, by a mile. It does matter. It's his team.
Matter.
It does. Of course it matters. It's not as if he's not doing
Take
changes.
6 starting players. Take six.
Blah 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 blah.
Take
right.
6 starting players out of any other SPL team. Take 6 of them out. Would they win?
Joe Hart, right? Carter Vickers, Starfelt. There's 3 last night, right? 3 last night straight away. The front 3, there's 6, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your left wing, your right wing. So there's 6 straight away. So 6 out of the 11 last night were his players.
Right.
That's quite significant, right?
Okay.
And listen, and by the way, and 2 of the players that's missing are his players. And 2 of the players that's missing are his players. Julian and Forrest are his players. So hold on. That'll be 2 of them that'll come in that are his players.
So let's cut to the nub. You mentioned, and every other manager prior to this guy coming in talked about the critical battle on any football field is the midfield battle, right? What's he doing right now? He's working on attacking patterns that make that front 3 attack.
He's doing fuck all right now.
No, that's balls, and that's just
Roger
that for me.
Turnbull are at that level. He's playing 2. I mentioned PSG.
Yeah.
Against Man City.
You can't. Now you're
but that's grafters. No, I'm talking grafters against a world-class team. We're playing against a really good German team, and he's got 2 guys in midfield that don't have the energy to track back.
Right.
Come on.
Right, so
And his alternatives were what? Sorrow, who you fucking detest and thinks.
No Sorrow at all. No, I never mentioned Sorrow. You mentioned Sorrow. Sorrow would have made my amateur team in the corner for me.
I think there's a player in there. You've been banging on about it.
Very good. There it is. If anyone had 34 minutes in the sweepstake, that was the first night. I thought we were going to get a bit earlier tonight for there's a player in there. No, right. No, but that's
what's his alternative?
Monty's saying. Monty, give us
It doesn't have an alternative. Beaton's useless. Beaton's a liability, and McCarthy has to sit down if he runs more than 10 yards.
Who signed McCarthy?
Who did sign McCarthy? Right. No, that's a very good. That's a very good point to come back to. Because we're back to
any model of any player that he's ever had before. McCarthy's a waste of money. Beaton, he's due a testimonial soon. Do you think anybody will go?
Fair enough.
The only other options are guys like Ewan Henderson and, well, that's about it really. Yeah.
Where's Shaw? Where's the young fella Shaw who was playing championship for knee one?
Why is Luca Connell back at Queen's Park when he was already playing for Wigan? No, Hector, what I mean is I'm talking about the squad, but I'm talking about the squad and people learning the systems. Why are we sending, say, like young players who could maybe come in instead of a Beaton, instead of a Sorrow, instead of a McCarthy? No, that way. These are the players that I was hoping.
Listen, would get this Beaton thing's just it's a nonsense, right? Centre back, Lennon, everyone else is ridiculous. Never a centre back. Number 6, right? He could do a job defensive midfielder. No quality. You've already
was a midfielder that was good at it. I thought he would try him in defence. If I hadn't signed it, goal.
All I'm saying is this, right? If you put him as a 6 in there, you're taking 1 or 2 players out, Rodgers and Turnbull, who too often are passengers. Because for obvious reasons, the energy is lacking. You need energy athleticism at this level. If he can sit as Beaton as a 6, then you push McGregor up 1, and he's got the energy. He's got the creativity and the energy. He's your best midfield by a mile.
What you've done there, right? And
it's been pragmatic. That's what I've done. Right?
That's the use.
I did a little course with MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Tech.
Oh, here we go.
It's about system thinking, right?
All right.
It's about system thinking, and I must give it to you, Hector.
You and Bill Gates,
You can still log in. No, it's all good, but it's it's about system thinking, right? And it actually gives you an insight into, in very good layman terms, because it needed to be, because it's me. But it gives you an insight into these concepts, right? System boundaries, function relationships, formal relationships.
Oh, fuck.
Emergence, right?
Lost half the audience. Come on, get to the point.
Go with me. Bear with me 1 second.
You'll have pencil here.
Bear with me 1 second, because the reason, in order to understand why the man is sticking to his principles.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, the men need to wish to make themselves a fucking hell.
This is the point where Desi hangs up on Monty. Okay, I get it. Yes, you're just you're not thinking straight at the minute. You're being a sense of fucking lunacy, right? The man is trying to build.
Well, just get pumped 4-0. How are we lunatics?
We got pumped 4-0, and their keeper was man of the match.
Ralph, what was the stats of the last 8 games you mentioned just before we started recording? What did you mention there? The last 8 games, not 1 game, 2 games.
Two wins in 8 games, 2 wins in 8
games. So we're not lunatics. 2 wins in 8 or 9 is not being a lunatic, right? Let's stop that. But let's stop. Hold on. No, but hold on a wee second, Monty, right? I don't think name calling is appropriate. Right.
Oh no! I need to get HR in this call. I don't appreciate your tone. I don't appreciate the way you're looking at me. And Ralph's looking at me particularly aggressively, and I think I need to cut this call. My point is, he's trying to build a fucking system. He doesn't have the tools to create the function or the form of the system. Give him time.
Come on. In Scotland, he does. Don't make. In Europe, he doesn't. In Europe, I accept Europe, he doesn't. In Scotland, he does.
The engine's still the engine, whether he's driving in Monaco or fucking Scotland. It makes no difference.
I tell you what, Desi, right? Desi, you can I ask you a question then, right? Can I just slightly move on a wee touch, right? We've covered covered that.
Yes, he has been drinking, Hector. He has been drinking.
Right. Yes. This weekend at Pittodrie, this weekend.
Yep.
I'll start with you. Would you consider this a pivotal game already this early in the season domestically?
I believe it's a pivotal but one game. I believe Motherwell post-international break is going to be the one where people will draw a final line under the sand. One of my questions ever was going to be, do you think, and again, there was people who were pro Ange at the start and negative Ange at the start, and there was a lot of people in that bit in the middle who were totally confused by this new guy and waiting to see what happens. And it's those people who are starting to sway, I think, towards the negative side now. He's starting to lose a lot of the goodwill. Pittodrie is going to be a really difficult game. We're no good away, let's be honest, and we're having to go to an Aberdeen team who are also struggling to play. So they're going to fight for our lives. We're up against Bruni, who's going to be reinvigorated. You've got your Lewis Ferguson, so he'll be happy to put anybody up and down the park. We're up against a hostile. We're going to have a full stadium. So if we don't show up, I'm not saying it's that bad. I can't even say if we don't win, because I don't even know if every Celtic fan expects us to win on Sunday. Whereas normally in the last few seasons we'd have been really confident getting up there, and we should be confident with the personnel regardless of the squad. So I think if we get away with a one each on Sunday, most people will say, okay, give them the international break. But see if we come out and get stuffed at Motherwell of all places, then I think that'll be the breaking point for a lot of people.
Ralph, what do you think?
You see, if we do lose to Aberdeen, if we come back and we lose to Motherwell again, where do we go from there? Do we throw everything up in the air again and start from scratch? If you're going to build something, you need to at least wait and see how it ends up. There's no point in bailing on it now. We need to make sure as a team that they all believe in the system. We need to make sure that they all do what they're told, and they need to work towards it. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. And ask yourself again, who would come here? Who would come to Celtic now? Any manager. Bobby Robson said this when he was offered the job. He says, if I go there and we win, I was expected to do it. If we go there and I lose, my career's finished. Right? Postecoglou at least has another reason to do well here. This is him trying to make a name for himself in Europe. So he will stick to it, I think. I don't think he'll walk. You're hearing crazy stuff about Strachan taking over and that. He'll have to be pushed. He'll no walk. And he'll stick to his guns. And great leaders are the stubborn ones that stick through adversity and on all comes and get a result at the end of it.
Yeah, but Ralph, my point to that was, I wouldn't say it's Postecoglou we're having to worry about in regards to the kind of walking. I think the worry is he loses the fan base. I'm not saying he's lost us. I'm just saying as a representation, could this be a case of a step too far for a lot of people? I'm not saying myself, right? I'm just saying a lot of people.
What kind of fan base falls apart when it doesn't? They're not recognising how deep the problems are.
Yeah, but I think
the sense of entitlement we've had over the last 9-10 years is ridiculous.
That was going to be my point. I think a lot of Celtic fans are still in the Kubler-Ross stages of grief. I think a lot of them are still in denial and anger. You know what I mean? We've not actually came through losing 10 in a row. So they're still looking to lash out. They can't lash out at the board. We've already lost Dom Mackay. So now we're looking to lash out whoever we can. So even though Ange is a man who's stuck to his principles and done nothing wrong in his own eyes, things aren't working out. So fans are now looking to say, right, well, who's in the firing line that I can take this out on? I think a lot of them are still going through that 10 in a row grief period. It's never really been addressed.
To go back to what you said about a pivotal game, I don't think it's going to be Aberdeen and Motherwell. I think it'll be the semi-final against St Johnstone.
Yes.
Because that'll put us into a final. It'll put us into a final against, let's face it, an underperforming Rangers team. And by then he'll have had a few more months to work with players, and he'll have a few more. We'll have bedded in a wee bit more. He'll have decided which ones he's keeping. Fair play to, he's giving people a chance.
Yep.
And if they're not buying into it, they'll be away.
Yep.
That'll give us a cup final. That should give us a trophy. That is what if I was him, that is what I would be getting into the players. That's my first.
Alex Ferguson thing.
Yeah. What date's the League Cup final this year?
20th of November.
Right, so it's that early.
It's 6 weeks away.
20th of November. No, 2 months away.
Right.
20th of November.
So here's the thing for you. Right now, you got a 6-point gap to the leaders who aren't playing particularly well. Neither are we. We've got players coming back. We got a pretty important game this Sunday that, there's pressure if we don't win it greater than the existing sort of level of pressure right now. But then we get to breathe a little bit with an international break. We win that semi-final. We hit a batch of form. Got another 6 weeks. I think it looks like 6 weeks that this guy has. 4 to 6 weeks to work with his players, and then there's a break. And then there's 4 to 6 weeks, and then there's another break. So none of this is ideal either, but it's just a cycle with international breaks. Come the end of November, we should have a real sense of the players being bought into his vision and his vision starting to stick or otherwise. You're also going to see it. It pained me to message that up last night. I think Turnbull's a cracking player in a different system. I don't think Turnbull can play the way that Postecoglou wants him to play. I mentioned the physiology of the type of players. That's sharp. Remember the really brilliant Barcelona team with Xavi and Iniesta? They had Busquets as their pivotal six that you talked about, Hector. He was,
Beaton.
Aye. There you go.
A poor man's Beaton.
Poor man's Beaton. But I mentioned the physiology.
The Bethlehem Busquets.
The Bethlehem Busquets. But I mentioned their physiology. They were all live. There wasn't a pick of fat on them. They were slight. They were built like Larson. I remember Larson. We've seen Larson in the flesh. He was just fucking wire. There was no pick on him. And they had that fraction of a second of sharpness that the rest of the players could only aspire to. Turnbull's a great diesel engine, up and down, but he's not that sharp.
No, he's no Monty.
But he's struggling. The thing is,
Monty, my apologies. Sorry, my apologies. This is one of my great annoyances recently, and I've put it in your chat a few times. If you watch Roderick and Turnbull, I think they've been told to do this. They run in parallel in the opposition's half of the park. They don't come back. They hardly come back whatsoever. And this is the problem. We've not got anybody. When we lose the ball, all you've got is McGregor watching the ball go by him because they can't cover everybody at the halfway line.
And it's not a criticism, Monty. We appreciate a lot of the guys don't. We're Desi and I live in Glasgow, right? You know yourself at the game. The TV's focused on a certain area. At the game, no. And that's my point. I was trying, and Desi just went on it. They just don't cover that ground, and that's why so often it's a 3v2 or a 4v3 where a team goes against us in the counter because they're miles away from play. They're way up the end of the pitch so often. So it's such a struggle. I was going to say, Monty, like Turnbull might work. Sorry, Hector. Turnbull might work if you maybe had like you went back to the old diamond shape, and you had McGregor sitting as your six, and you had the two guys running in parallel from the halfway line. But Roderick and Turnbull are placed 20 yards inside the opposition's half, and they don't track back another 40 yards. They only come back if you're lucky at the halfway line at all, if anything, and they can't tackle. They've not got any shoulders. No, that way. They offer nothing in regards to a defensive midfield role anywhere on the pitch. And that was my point about the PSG. I'm not saying for the same level of player, but it's the style. It's three grafters. Mm-hmm. To play the way that we play, gung-ho, you need grafters in the middle of that pitch who can cover every blade of grass. And right now we've got one McGregor.
Do you know who would be really good, Monty? John McGinn. John McGinn would be great in a Postecoglou system.
Ryan Christie.
Exactly. That was a discussion last night. Ryan Christie's been missed.
Stuart Armstrong, be perfect in it.
But here, have you noticed as well since Christie left that the shite corner taking ability is completely transferred over to Turnbull?
It's good they can pass the baton so well, isn't it?
And it's just perfect, seamless. KPI achieved.
I did ask the question, you guys, and this weekend, Pitodrink, Desi, you nailed it. Aberdeen are probably in a worse position than us this season after high expectations. Aye, but they've been. I mean, we've been poor, but they've been really poor, right? So there's a lot of pressure on them as well, which is kind of good. Rangers are at home to Hibs this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah,
what's helped us a bit is they've had a really poor start to the season. In Europe, they've lost 4 games already this season, so have we, and lost away to Dundee United and drew home to Motherwell. So they are not playing, anywhere near their best. They may never reach that level again. So we may have a little bit of a get-out clause here. Fingers crossed we do, right? So if we don't win at Aberdeen, there's a chance that they might not beat Hibs this weekend. It's kind of what I'm trying to say, right? But if we lose to Aberdeen this week, the pressure, there is a break, the pressure will be phenomenal. Because Aberdeen be absolutely shite this season. Let's cut to the chase, right? But we turn it round. That's why I think it's pivotal. If we can beat Aberdeen and beat Motherwell, I think we've got the potential to go on a big run of wins. But if we don't beat Aberdeen, man, it's a long way back.
Everything comes to being in touch come the January break. We host what will most likely be the league leaders just before the break. I think, was it the last fixture before the break, or is it the actual?
Right. So let me quickly. I've got them up here, Monty. Let's just quickly go over the Christmas period. We have St Johnstone away on Boxing Day, and then on the 29th of December we host Hibs at home, and then the 2nd of January we host Rangers at home, and then the 26th of January. So there is a big winter break, to be fair. So that I never noticed there was a big break in the dates. Then we go to Hearts on the 26th of January, and then we face Dundee United on the 29th, and then we're away to Motherwell and Aberdeen the following 2 weeks.
If you're looking for the pivotal time, it's those 3 fixtures up to the break. That's it. And everything will revolve around those 3 fixtures. And all we need to be in, I genuinely feel this in my bones and believe it, as long as we're in touch.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Be 6 points behind them and
So we're six behind
your own
just
hands.
now.
So if we're as you were and we get them to Celtic Park, it's the same as Lennon's game last year at Ibrox. And remember, Cal Mack scored the OG and Bobby Madden gave them a helping hand, I think it was. Or maybe it was that other wee wank, I can't remember his name. I genuinely believe we will fucking cuff the league leaders in that match, because, and the only variables here are the ones you can't control. Either we get a horrendous run of form or luck, and Postacoglu's lost it, which I don't think is going to happen, or you're in a scenario where the incentive is there. Lambert mentioned it on the commentary last night. Celtic need a couple of men in there to help those kids. And this is something else we're missing in the grand scheme of things. The spine is old. Hart, could you imagine? I was thinking about this actually after last night's game. Imagine we had Hart last season. I know if your granny had balls, you'd be a grand and all that. Imagine Joe Hart was our keeper last season. Do you think we'd have done 10 in a row? Just hold the thought, right?
Only if he was the manager.
We have a keeper, first goalkeeper, genuinely on our books for 2 or 3 years since Foster. We've got 2 centre halves that look like they're coming into a decent partnership. Not at fault for anything last night.
Right. Okay, right. I'll let you finish, then I'll come back to that.
Looks like it can work. That, for me, it's hope.
Right. Okay. Right. So we've got. Let's have a wee 10 minutes. Can I just ask a few questions to analyse the actual players? Right. So Hector, you touched on earlier Ange's signings, and I had a discussion in Ralph's diary today in the comments in the diary where somebody was complaining about Ange's signings, and I said, well, Ange's signed Hart, who's had a good start. He signed Carter Vickers, who I think is a really good defender. I'm being really impressed. He just heads the ball away and gets rid of it, and that's fine by me. But Starfelt looks absolutely terrified every time he's got the ball at his feet. He managed to go into a wee 4-step sprint last night, but he was bought when he started, and I think he's one of his first games. Somebody said to Ange, he had a really good game bringing the ball out, and I went, yeah, that's why I bought him. He's not done it since.
No.
He's meant to break the first line to free up the midfield to the can then attack. But he runs to the halfway line and passes it to Carlton Vickers, who doesn't want it. Because he's not a dribbler, he's a big lump of wood.
It looks like a confidence thing,
yep.
which we kind of get, right? But for better players than him, remember Paul Elliott? All the months took him ages. I'm not saying for a second he's Paul Elliott's level, right? But we've seen these guys before. What I would say in Starfelt's defence is actually defending.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Terrible start. But see, since then, I think defensively, as in like marking his man, blocking challenges, I actually think he's done okay. But you're right, the ball at his feet, he's like a kind of a rabbit in the headlamps sometimes, right? But some of that's the players in front of him no showing.
Aye, but he's
no
not.
options.
And as Monty said, like, and Starfield's also alluded to this too. He's getting used to this new system, which he has been introduced to by this manager, this unique system. Again, as well as having to bring the ball out, he's also he's not got a right back or a left back covering his sides. You know what I mean? Because they've already inverted and they're in front of him, and he's kind of going, what's happening here? And then you've got outside of the inverted fullbacks, you've got the wingers. So we've got Jota, who has been really good, but to me, he always looks good for one half, and then he doesn't die in the game. We just seem to forget he's there for some reason. I don't understand why we prioritise attacking down the left-hand side of the pitch and then forget about the left-hand side of the pitch in the second half. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. It just seems to drift out the game in the second half and then comes alive in the last 10 minutes. And Abada does not look like a winger.
Abada started really well, and now he looks to be a wee bit more reserved or in himself. I don't know what's going on there. He's not taking on a man. He seems to be playing more of a kind of a.
Abada's starting to look more like a Rogic.
Kyogre wasn't he playing? You know, he linked well with Kyogre early on. They were forming kind of a partnership, not a strike partnership, but certainly a forward partnership. Kyogo's not been there, and he obviously doesn't have the same kind of movement from movement and
I think a lot of that was Kyogre was playing the balls for Abada to run onto. I don't know. Abada's not like he's no showing the ability to dribble recently. It doesn't seem to even want it. It just cuts inside. Remember, James Forrest seemed to go through quite a lot, and it could be this whole confidence through the squad. I'm just highlighting what these things that I'm seeing. Like
I'd love us to get the chance, right? And this is where I think it's fair. It's fair to be honest about the situation. All four of us want Ange to do well, because if he does well, Celtic do well, right? But it's also fair that we're upfront and honest about criticisms, what's a positive, what's a negative, because otherwise it's bullshit, right? We're just calling it as we see it, right? But here's one thing, and I get it, a million caveats here. If he could, I'd love to see the chance to get the strongest team, as strong a team as possible together. And it need games, and again, it's all about winning games. I get that, right? It's a results business. But if you Joe Hart in goals, probably Juranovic be right back. Julian, probably Carter Vickers, centre defence. Left back, I don't know. Pick one of four.
We'll sign one.
Right? I'm talking just now, right? Before January, right? It could be the Irish boy, could be Taylor, Montgomery, don't know, right? Anyway, that's the one, right? Fully fit, remember a caveat, fully fit and everything else. McCarthy is 6, probably McGregor and Turnbull. Then Forrest on the right, on the left Jota and Kyogre through the middle. I think that is a very good team domestically. Very good team domestically. And there's options there. Jota's not doing it. Kyogre can slot to the left, no bother. And another striker. The Greek boy's just done. I know he's just done. I'll take him games to get up to fitness as well. But that's a significantly different team from what we're seeing just now, if they're all fit. Is that likely? They'll all be fit at the same time? Modern football? I don't know.
But it may be, as Monty alluded to, towards the end of the year, that could be a possible team, because Taylor would be back, Juranovic may be back, Julian may be back. Obviously, we may have some injuries in between then. But there is a possibility that could be your team facing Rangers and Hibs. I mean, because you've got to remember, realistically, by the end of this season, the top of the league won't really change that much.
The top E's list, hopefully in January, the top E's list is 2 midfielders.
Yes.
2 absolute grafters from I hope the Japanese league, like Kyogre. The 2, I'm totally guessing, but 2 top-notch Japanese league midfielders who can cover every blade of grass with a decent technique to keep the ball moving. If we get that transforms our team.
And I think that's what you're going to see in January. I really do. That's the obvious. If we can see it and it's glaring, then
But he's got to get there. If we're 14 points behind or whatever, he won't be there. He won't be there. The fans won't accept it.
Well, that was my question about if we go to Fir Park and lose. Would the fans who are currently sitting on the fence maybe only get one cheek left on that fence? Would they then just jump ship and go straight into the negative, we need to change it approach? Well, the board just sit there saying, it's what you wanted, wasn't it? and suddenly we know it's John Kennedy back as an interim boss with Gordon Strachan giving him advice. That's shite. So, I mean, it is 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Gordon Strachan should not be anywhere near the club.
I mean,
Do you mind he says you've got 4 years? Mind when he came? 4 years, that's enough. You shouldn't be back. That was like 15 years ago.
Has he not finished his review with the youth setup? Is he not done? It's a 12-week contract.
I think he's trying to
academy. Him and his family have got 2 academies running. So that was purely, as Monty hints, that was purely a kind of youth setup. Let's review what we can do for you. The classic kind of let's come in and management consultancy. You know what I mean? Let's come in and see what we can offer you. That's all that would have been. But that would be your options. If Barnesacoglu get this basically forced out the door, it would be John Kennedy. Let's be brutally honest. None of us want to see John Kennedy facing Rangers at New Year. And I mean, we've been down that road. We don't want to go back there. I mean, we're going to move forward and keep going forward. And when you're going through hell, keep going. You know
I think the board have gone all in with Ange, right? And after last season with Lennon, I'd be surprised if see if they're 12, 14 points behind if they dump them. But here's the big difference for last season: there was no fans in the stadium, and that's why Lennon lasted so long. Very different this year. You know, it won't if the fans turn. He can't survive if the fans turn in the stadium.
Yeah.
Just can't happen.
Hector, you may have missed, but I was asking the question, throwing up the question: is a lot of the fans' anger still residue from losing 10 in a row? There's a lot of fans still going through the grief process. So Ange is going to cop it rather than being purely for Ange.
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of goodwill towards Ange. You know, I think a lot of folk like you and me were against his appointment, not because we knew him, we didn't know him at all, because we wanted somebody to experience European football, proven capabilities over here, in this market here. But once he's appointed, and the way the guy speaks, I think he's likeable, if that makes sense. You want him to do well. He seems like a good man, good standards, good morals, wants to play good football. So there's a lot of things, he ticks the boxes you want to see as a Celtic manager. That buys goodwill. But I keep saying this, it's a results business, right? And he just needs to steady the ship. And that's why I get back to pragmatism. Not because I think Ange is wrong in wanting to play dynamic football. God, I love attacking football, as you guys know. But sometimes you've just got to tweak things just to grind it out until you get your best players back, grind out a 1-0 or a 2-1. Doesn't matter if it's ugly, just do it, right? And then your best players come back, and then you go and you play your football. That's all I'm trying to get at, to help
Monty.
him.
Yep, you're totally right. Monty, are we currently in the sliding doors area of Celtic supporting? Who knows what's the next twist in the story? I'm just thinking the guards.
I think we'll close the gap to 3 points on Sunday. There you go. I think we'll beat Aberdeen away and they'll lose at home to Hibs.
Did you know see Lennon can still do it in February?
What's that?
No, I think he actually said there's a manager in there somewhere. Was that not his words?
I think we'll win at Pataudi comfortably. I think it'll be the spark, and I think they'll lose at home to Hibs because they're shite. Hibs are actually decent this year. Hibs are a decent team. They're shite. We're shite, but we're less shite than Aberdeen.
So
I think we'll see a 6-point swing.
Hibs will go 18 points and we'll go to 13. Is that what you're predicting by the weekend?
And whatever I don't know what the differential is, but yes, I think Hibs will win at Ibrox and we'll win away at Pataudi.
Are you predicting? I hope everyone's listening with their betting slips. Are you predicting we could move up to the heady heights of 5th in the league?
Yeah, fifth in the league or 8 points off top. It all depends on how you see the table, man.
So yeah, I'm just looking here. So we've got Aberdeen. Aberdeen are in 7th place, 2 points behind us. So if they beat us, they go above us. We would slide at least. I'd assume we'd slide into 7th because St Mirren are only are 3 points behind, but they've got a big goal difference of minus. There's an 18 goals of a difference. So I think we're safe.
We're safe.
Given the scale of the rebuild, is a top 6 finish not progress?
So we'll be at least 7th. I mean, that's no bad, is it? It could be worse. It could be worse. I was asking about sliding doors there, Monty, because again, you look at things like Kyogre coming back last night, and I know Leverkusen had millions of chances, etc. But it's just those chances that slipped for Celtic, as in Kyogre one-on-one.
Chances is there. Why can't you see both sides of the puzzle?
Well,
Not you,
missing,
people in general. We had the same amount of shots on goal as them. Why
No,
can't
but the score was 4-0.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
was man of the match.
No,
Why
but-
can't you see the big picture?
Yeah, but
If the
Hector,
score's 4-0, it's 4-0.
Hector,
But
that's,
Hector was fucking man of the match.
Oh.
We had the same amount of shots on goal. We had
Hector,
as much, if not
why I'm saying- This is to round up in regards to pragmatism. This is like we know, we've titled this meeting Pragmatism versus Idealism. Hector, the reason I'm saying that sliding door moment is if Kyogre scores that one-on-one, so to speak, and then we went one up, imagine if Ange suddenly adopted the pragmatism. That's what I'm striking along the lines of, I know we've done the 2-0, so again,
Wouldn't it happen?
Is he going to learn a lesson
No.
if we've been 2 up?
He plays the same system, doesn't matter what.
So
You would like to think that if we do eventually get ahead in a game, that he would adapt a wee bit and stop us losing another goal within a few minutes, which is kind of been a habit in Europe. But that is more about having players that would come back and do that, as opposed to right, everybody stay here until it's all died down. He hasn't got the players to do it the way he wants to. He's getting the players in to do it.
It's called pragmatism, mate. That's what you're saying.
Well, that's pragmatism. Getting the players in to do the job.
Yeah,
There's no point. Look, there's no point in giving Beaton even a squad number. There's no
Oh,
point.
don't blame Beaton. He's done nothing wrong.
Blame Beaton
It
now.
all
Blame
started
him.
last season when he gave away that penalty.
By the way, but here's
The
the point.
demise has come from Beaton, nobody else.
But Ralph, here's the
Everyone
thing.
else
Here's the
has
thing
tried
that,
their best.
and it does grind my gears. And Lambert a wee bit. I caught what he said in the game. He never said this. This is my take on it. But our 2 games, this isn't the Champions League, Europa League, right? We've lost 8 goals in 2 games. That's embarrassing. We're not playing PSG or Barcelona at their peak or Madrid. We've played against Betis when we controlled the game and went through a crazy spell as we always do, 2-0 up. And last night was 4, and Hearts stopped it being 6 or 7. 8 goals in 2 games. And last season, I think we lost the most goals.
Yeah, we were 1 game away. We managed to
Right.
stem the tide.
But there is another way of looking
But that's
at that.
embarrassing for us as a club because we're 60,000 fans, and I know we know that money-wise the best league. Hold on. But money-wise, I know we know. But hold on. But money-wise, I know we know the best league. We get all that. We know all that, right? But we're not a minnow from fucking Estonia, right?
Champions League terms,
They would beat us.
No, but we're not in the Champions League. We're in Europa League.
Aye,
right?
but in Champions League terms, we're a minnow from Estonia.
No, but I'm talking about Europa League last season.
So Europa League, our best, our level right now is probably last 32 Europa League. That's
No,
where
my
we are.
point was this about the goals. Sorry, about the goals conceded.
Mhm.
No, in the Europa League, no the Champions League against the best elite teams. We've lost. Was it 17 last year? And hold on, but 8 in 2 games. That is embarrassing.
But
That's
you
embarrassing.
can't take that out in isolation and not look at that.
Well, it's isolation.
Sorry,
It's a pattern.
but no.
It's a pattern.
You're looking at a team who are second only to Bayern Munich, who most likely will go on to the final this year of the Champions League. They're second only. You can't. You're looking at Betis, who were a top 6 Spanish team last year. You're not comparing. You can't compare. You can't beat down on Celtic on the one hand.
I can.
But no, you can't.
25 goals in 8 European Europa League games is embarrassing.
But yeah, I'm not saying it's not. But my point is, if you don't look at it in the wider context, you'll end up having a fucking coronary on it.
No, I won't. I'm just stating facts.
Right. But okay. So then, let me give you facts that provide a better.
Don't you quote the Michigan? Is it Mitt University in Massachusetts? Don't quote it.
I'm not going to quote
MIT,
We've lost for 1 listener already because of that.
Against the second best team in the Bundesliga, we had 55% as 18 shots, of which 6
How many
were on
goals did we
target.
lose?
And their goalkeeper was man of the match.
How many
That
goals
is
did we lose?
context.
How many goals did we lose?
The Leverkusen coach said that the scoreline absolutely flattered his team. So am I going to take Hector's tactical analysis on how many goals or the lever?
How many goals did we lose? How many goals did we lose?
Yeah, I'm not disputing it.
You've made excuses.
No, I'm not. I'm giving you context as to why.
No, you're not. You're making excuses.
Right, okay, right, here we go, right. Let's wrap this up because I think I think we're all agreed it's going to be a very interesting next few weeks. But just let's end with a wee quiz just on what you two were discussing there, right? So again, I think Hector's got a very good point in regards to conceding goals. If it's a lot of goals or it's one goal, it doesn't really matter to me because we're conceding a lot of goals we shouldn't be conceding, right? So can you tell me, just off the top of your heads, under Ange, can you tell me the teams you've managed to have a clean sheet against?
Raith Rovers.
Correct.
St Mirren.
Correct.
Dundee.
Correct.
Ross County.
Where are we? Yeah, that was 6-0. That was 3-0. Yes, correct. That's 3-0. Any else?
Yeah, the foundations are in place. What are you worried about?
Any else? Go on, we've had a few more.
European
Midget one?
Qualifiers.
Midtjylland, no one each with Midtjylland. 2-1 with Midtjylland. We get pumped with him.
Alkmaar,
well done, Ralph. That was the one I was waiting on. There's also another one, an English team.
We don't have cases of friendlies.
And that's Bristol City was the other one. Alkmaar, we beat Alkmaar 2-0 at home and then lost 2-1 away to progress. So there you go. Out of all those games, we've had about 5 or 6, if you're lucky, clean sheets.
Against all the big teams.
Exactly, against the big team. And of course, the classic line is strikers win your games, defence win your leagues. So we're still waiting on Julian coming back. So we're still waiting for our the biggest defence for Christmas. You know what I mean? So we're really hoping for us.
How come every time we get a player that's injured, and Julian gets injured every time he puts his shoes on, how come they become these world-class defenders that have got each other? Forget about them. Put Julian and Beaton in a taxi, take him to the airport, and see if anybody will pick him up.
It's called desperation, Ralph.
No, it's a phenomenon thing. The Celtic players do get better the less games they play. Sorrow's a classic example.
No, he's not.
No, he was, because we all thought he was going to pick up the brown.
No, we didn't all think
and
that.
And then we thought, God's sake, please don't. See last week, I actually meant to mention this earlier. See last week when Sorrow basically came on and we were kind of chasing down the game. We're like, stand your feet. And young Montgomery was shadowing the United player trying to get the ball. Sorrow just going to just jump in the guy's back and you just heard a collective groan. But then last night, Hector, just talking about your great love in the hoops. Beaton, when he gets the ball and started to run that 10 yards, and you just knew he was going to try a 30-yard shot, and sure enough, it flew 20 yards out of the bar, and everybody just went, oh, fuck, right.
But that's one of the shots that Monty referred to on the stats.
That's one of those shots on target. You know what I mean? But I think we actually had more possession than Leverkusen last night.
Well, Starfelt and Carter Vickers probably 25% here.
Exactly.
55%
the
possession.
Turnbull brothers.
I actually feel sorry for they two because imagine being a centre half at Celtic right now. You must be going, what the fuck? Come on, honours. Give me some honours here.
Exactly. Turning and going, Ralston, oh shit.
So why does it, to go back to pragmatism, why does it not just put Welsh, Carter Vickers and Starfelt in the middle? We've only got one.
That's dangerous thinking, Ralph. Dangerous thinking
Ralph,
there.
I have wondered that. If your issue is getting full-backs forward, just play 3 at the back, 3 centre-halves at the back and put your full-backs in midfield.
We haven't really got any full-backs anyway, so just put in 5 midfielders.
But then the issue is the full-backs don't play wide in his 3-5-2. They would still play inside.
But we'd crowd midfield, and that would stop the other team getting the ball, so we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but because that's also one of the problems is you're highlighting there, because we've got Roderick and Turnbull so far up the park, they're standing beside Kyogre and the 2 wingers. So there's 5 of them in a row and there's nowhere for it. Roderick and Turnbull need a wee bit of space to do that half turn and get a shot or a pass. But it's so crowded they can't do that. So we need to bring everything we need to have the correct people in the correct spaces. So we need to work on that.
It feels like we play, let's be blunt, a 3-1-6 or 2-1-7 at times.
A 2-1-7, easy. McGregor
right.
must.
That's just not right.
The two are hard and Starfelt.
McGregor must stand at that centre and go, hold on a minute. You know what I mean? He's crying out for a Peter Grant to be right there beside him.
No, he's not.
Pointing, telling him where to go.
He doesn't want a pointer. He doesn't want Peter Grant pointing.
Right, so
He wants a Paul McStay next to him and a Paul Lambert next to him.
right, so again, right, so this we'll try and wrap up in the next minute or so, folks. Thanks for sticking with us. So Monty, you have alluded before about the Tommy Burns feeling.
Yes.
Are you so on the scale of Celtic management? I don't mean this success or failure, but just that kind of approach. So we've got John Barnes, who we've joked about, but obviously we don't think Ange Postecoglou is that. Mowbray, again, totally, the wheels came totally off. We didn't really see any signs of progress. My question is, but are you seeing enough progress anywhere and just in a general term? Like, even Kyogre came on last night and revitalised the team for at least 20 minutes. So you're hoping that he can start dragging people forward again, because he is the epitome of a Postecoglou Celtic. But we need another 10 Kyogres, and that's not going to happen. But do you see enough progress to think that's okay? We can just bed in for the next 2 months, and come Christmas, we'll be all right.
Without over dramatising the weekend, which I do believe will fall in our favour, it is a catalyst. Short answer is yes. If I look at how we're playing, and I mean it genuinely, I'm not at the wind up. We look like when we're attacking, it doesn't look as chaotic as Mowbray was just a misfiring engine that never looked like it knew what it was doing. Barnes was an experiment that failed. This just, for me, it just feels different. It feels like with a guy who has a fundamental belief in his system. And I know Ralph alluded to players maybe blowing smoke up. I was asking, telling them what he wants to hear. I don't think that's the case. I think there's boys that are maybe getting a game who know that they're not going to get a game soon because they just aren't suited to this style of football. But I think there's enough there, Desi, that at least the man deserves a full season to get his ideas across. Whatever falls out in the next sort of 2 months is going to define him and define his career. I don't think that we're in the wrong hands here. I just think he doesn't have the right players yet. And if we can get the January in touching distance, another 2 or 3 months of his ideas into players, I think we're going to be in a really good space. And again, re-emphasize, I've said it a few times, I actually really enjoy watching Celtic at the moment. It's just fun. And that's ultimately, if football's entertainment and that's what we're there for, it's fucking glorious. I love the man. I really, really hope he can turn it around. But on a scale of 1 to don't break my heart like Tommy Burns, I'm a wee bit worried. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried. But I think we're going to be all right.
Okay, I've got a good feeling that the sales of your beer may escalate over the next few weeks or months. But Ralph, you alluded in the diary before regards the John Barnes scenario of doing not too bad at the start, then losing your star striker. Is the fact that we have Kyogre back earlier than expected that big bonus for Ange, you think?
Well, it is if he's fit. If they've just brought him back because they're panicking, he's going to get injured again. That could be terminal for him. It's not so much the games, as I said earlier, it's not so much the games against Aberdeen and Motherwell. It's the League Cup that I would be concentrating on just now. If we can get to the final and win that, that'll buy him the time to get him through till Christmas. That'll take some of the pressure off him, because ultimately it's a results business, but it's trophies that count. And if he wins the first one, it's up for grabs, and he's only 180 minutes away from it against, as I said earlier, an underperforming Rangers, and St Johnstone are even worse off than Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Right? We have a chance, 2 games there. What is it, November 20th, you said? I don't know when the semi-final is. I don't know if it's before the break or after the break. But then with a couple of league wins as well, suddenly it's all rosy again. This is different from the Tommy Burns. When Tommy Burns took the team over, there were core Celtic players there. There was Paul McStay, there was others that he could work with and he only had to add to. What we need to remember is we're starting from scratch here.
Totally.
Starting after an absolute disaster of a season where all the key players had wanted away even before the start of that season. It had to be rebuilt. We had a year where we couldn't rebuild because of the circumstances of the plague. He's got all to do now. And the one thing, it is starting to annoy me. I don't think I could describe myself as a happy anything, never mind a happy clapper. But the criticism he's getting isn't fair. Right? And he's there by himself. He doesn't have his own people around him. He doesn't have somebody he can trust to bounce ideas off. He doesn't have somebody he can trust to say, yeah, this is what we need. This is the player we need. He's doing it on the back of people that have been at the club under several managers now, and the only reason they're there, they must be hoping for the top job themselves, right? At the very least, it shows a complete lack of ambition, career-wise, from Kennedy to just hang around and be whatever he is at Celtic. Now, to my mind, he's only there because he wants the job when Postecoglou walks. You can't have that. He has to, even if it's Kevin Muscat that he brings in, then he brings in his own people. People that you can just have seen Hector's face.
Monty's trying to fishing rod.
I don't care.
That was the rumour. That's his foul in football, isn't it?
Right? I don't care who he brings in. If he needs to bring in people he thinks will help him get his ideas across to the players and get results and get trophies. Right? In a couple of years' time, we might be looking back and laughing at this period. Right? And looking and thinking about how we maybe thought things were going to go tits so quickly, right? He's got half a team. In fact, no, he hasn't even got that. He's got one or two players, I think, that will be with him at the end if we do succeed. Others are maybe just stopgaps until he gets what he wants. Because you can't tell me he scouted the Starfelds and the Hearts, right? The only one I think.
Well, Hart's been one of his best players.
Hart. No, he did. He actually said.
Hold on.
Sorry, Ralph. He said Hart was presented to him. And when he spoke to him and met him, he knew immediately that's the guy that I want. So Hart is his.
That's fair enough. But again, like Joe Hart's let in 8 goals in 2 European games. If that was Barkas or Bain they'd be hunt, for whatever reason, Hart's getting away with that.
The fishing rods out again.
Context. You gotta watch the goals to understand Hart's not at all.
Like, you know he's allowed to catch them. You know he's allowed to try and stay, doesn't he? He's got a vacant look in his face sometimes. And it's that look of it's somebody else's fault.
This is what I mean about the entertainment value of watching Celtic right now.
But you know what? That's the other thing.
That's
the other thing I want to talk about. There's a huge difference with us as supporters, certainly the older supporters. See, when we're getting beat, we can have a laugh about it. We can call it entertainment.
Oh, we can.
Not take that seriously.
Hector, we're no old.
You can sit there. You can sit there and you can think, oh, here we go again. We're not going to go out and trash your town, right? It's entertainment. It's not going well at the moment.
What's this? Is this a fucking Billy Connolly?
The Carling's kicking in.
What's going on?
But to go back to what we were saying, the difference between Tommy Burns and Postecoglou is that even Tommy Burns at his peak, you knew it was never going to get any better. It was never going to go to a different level. He was never going to have a team that was going to do anything in Europe. With Postecoglou, if he builds it the way he wants to, gets the players in he wants to, then we're going to be back at least to where we were under O'Neill. And that was 20 years ago. How the hell have we managed to get this far down?
Desi.
Hector, no, let me ask you. Sorry, thank you, Ralph. That was very well.
I've got to answer the Tommy Burns. I missed the Tommy Burns bit. I missed that.
Let me ask you a question. Right, we've been comparing Barnes and Mowbray and Tommy Burns. So do you see Postecoglou being an Alex Ferguson or being a Davy Moyes? Do you think he wins? Do you think he wins the League Cup and we kick on, or do you think
I can only talk about in Celtic terms, right? And so far, well, it's only what 3 months into his time at Celtic. So far, you cannot mention Tommy Burns in the same breath as Postecoglou. Burns was up against the most financially doped Rangers team in the history of their existence up to 2012. Walter Smith, Brian Laudrup, Paul Gascoigne.
2012?
Well, obviously they passed away in 2012, as you know. Desi old Rangers, right? right. But he had teams that in European level were European class players. Rangers team that old Rangers with a pump team about 4 or 5-0, right? So it's not comparable for number one, right? Who is he reminiscent of? His playing style's reminiscent of really none of them, which is a good thing. He's got a way of playing. He's got an approach that is kind of unique, and what's good as a fan, you can see that. And I've criticised so far, but based upon results and no pragmatism. But you can see what he wants to try and do. When you have a manager, you have no idea what he's trying to do, then all bets are off, right? I don't think that's the case with Ange. I think with Ange, you can clearly see he's got a plan, just the plan's not working. My criticism is that until he gets the best players he wants in who are fit, just adapt a wee bit, and he's not doing that.
Do you think he'll
really
kick on from this weekend?
It depends on the result.
Now, do you think he'll be able to adapt? Do you think he will adapt to get that result that's needed? Do you think
he's not going to change his system, is he?
He doesn't need
I think we're all agreed.
It might change the players in the system.
He doesn't need
because other people can't do what he wants them.
He doesn't need to change his system. I think we're all agreed. I genuinely 100% agree with Ralph on this.
I think we're all agreed. We're all agreed he won't change his system, right?
Shouldn't,
I think we're all agreed, right?
What we're not agreed on is that he shouldn't change his system.
Right. So we're all agreed he won't change his system this weekend, right? Should he have to change his system going away to Aberdeen? My opinion, no. My criticism wasn't Aberdeen away. My criticism is at home to Bayer Leverkusen with the players he had at his disposal.
So
right?
But you did do that when Rodgers did it with PSG. Now, come on, Hector.
Oh no! Wait a minute.
And Barcelona.
Rodgers thought he was like fucking Guardiola, right? And by the way, but without Guardiola's players, right? But Rodgers is, as you've mentioned, we've all mentioned, an elite coach. But let's not get down the Rodgers route now, right? Back to Ange. If we win on Sunday, he gets a 2-week break. The players remain fit, and we go to Fir Park. I genuinely think this is in the heart ruling ahead, and Celtic's hard because the heart always rules ahead most of the time, right? I think we can really kick on if we don't beat Aberdeen and Motherwell.
We're not changing the system, but do you think he could make the changes to the personnel in the system, i.e., play McCarthy in the middle and promote McGregor to a Turnbull or Roderick role, and have somebody as Monty alluded to, somebody with engine to get up and down the park?
Well, McCarthy was brought in to play numbers. McCarthy's brought in to play number 6, right? And I get, by the way, he merits the criticism so far, right? I know he's just in. He said a stop-start. I get all that sort of stuff, right? But McCarthy's brought in to play 6. McGregor to push on 1. Will he do that this Sunday? If he does, that would make sense to me. I hope he does, right? If we get just one on Sunday, and build from there. That's what I would put it as. Do you think we'll win on Sunday? Being honest with you, I don't know right now. It's difficult. As you said, Desi, 15 minutes ago, Pittodrie, you normally think we've got there. They'll have a go. We'll end up beating them 2-3-0. This weekend, it could go anyway. We could beat them 4-0 on Sunday, but we could lose 3-1. I don't find that exciting. I'm sorry, Monty, but I just don't think potentially losing 3-1.
You're not getting any romance in your heart, Hector.
No, I don't. I'm just sorry, but that's
what happened to the fucking Hector Bandito of the Sevilla? You know,
he's on the beta blockers these days.
No, sorry, man.
Just sauntered through life with all the fucking zest of a French aristocrat.
That's okay if you're going away to who's this Moffy Budapest, Ferencváros. I get that. That's different. Got Pittodrie, come on. Who have they got? Who have they got in that team? Who would get into your team?
Scott Brown?
Really? Bruni wouldn't get into your team. No, it's number 6. He would. Well, McGregor's playing 6 just now, isn't he?
Right, but if you had Brown, would you play McGregor up?
Aye.
And you'd play Brown?
One player then.
So you'd play Brown, which means that you change the form of the system, which means that the function of the system is impacted, and the overarching
MIT, everyone.
Feels back to that MIT course that you didn't want me to mention again.
It's all about winning, baby. It's all about winning.
Can't drive the car, the engine's fucked. Like you can't
drive the car if the car's no fucking moving, right? Right now it's no moving.
Yeah, we're currently an electric car with a charge point. That's the problem.
In a nutshell, Desi, there you go. That's it. That's the title for the podcast.
That's it. No, I'm sticking with Barnesacoglu. I like that one.
Oh, he's going to go mental.
Because I'm known Twitter the whole weekend with birthday parties, so I'll just let Hector take the abuse. I mean, if I call it Barnesacoglu, that'd be perfect. Right, and so Monty's confident that we can move up to 5th in the league this weekend.
Predictions, Desi, start with you. If Pittodrie this Sunday.
1 each.
Right, Ralph, what are you going for?
I don't know. Like Monty says, it's kind of nice not knowing if we're going to win. It's kind of nice. No, come on, you need a wee bit of excitement in the game now and again. Mate, we had years of going all the way up there, getting drunk, coming all the way back, and people would say, "Well, what are you going up there for if you know you're going to win 4-0, 5-0?" Right, and don't get me wrong. After
This
the 90s,
is the best case of Stockholm syndrome I've ever heard. By the way, no, we like getting beat. Fuck right off.
Ralph, can you do a response in less than 16 minutes?
Said, right. You're talking about him being pragmatic. Maybe his dream team, maybe his first, we don't know what his first team is. Maybe his first team does include McCarthy with McGregor in front of him. Maybe maybe this Sunday will be the first time he's had a chance to play what he thinks is his strongest team.
Yeah.
Although obviously we'll not have Forrest in.
Or Peter.
I think somebody's due a good kicking off us. I think we'll get nothing. Just simply, we'll get one of the days when the shots go in, when the passes find a player, and the confidence will run through the team.
So what do you think the score will be this weekend then, Ralph?
5, 6, 7-0.
Aberdeen or Celtic?
Monty?
3-1 to Celtic at Pittodrie. We'll go 1-0 down, by the way. It'll be like the Kilmarnock game with Lennon. This is the
that's funny you said, because I was going to see if Celtic Stadium Web, the Wi-Fi worked. I was actually going to text get Tony Stokes on last night, because that's I was feeling we're getting back into that territory. So Hector, what do you think for a final prediction?
Now that Kyogre and McGregor look as if they're good for this weekend, that's a massive boost. I'm going to go for us to beat them 3-1.
Okay, 2-3-1, so want a better phrase. So that'll be very welcome. I say I'm just wary, especially being so early in the morning, and we've not had much recovery time, so he's probably not got to really work with them by assessing last night's game. So hopefully they've rested and recuperated enough to be recharged for Sunday. That's one of my concerns.
What do you think, Desi?
One each. I think it'll be one each. I think it's just a bit early after Thursday night.
So here we're moaning about it, and not a single one of us thinks we're going to get beat.
Not one of us thinks we'll have a clean sheet. Notice that.
But that
it's exciting. Remember, it's exciting, Hector. So that's it. Exciting times, CSC. There's the podcast rather than Barnesacoglu, because I know Hector will be funny. Right, so that's it. So thanks very much, folks, for listening. That was actually a lot longer than we expected to talk. I thought with the misery after last night we would be cutting it short, but I think we managed to find a few laughs in between there. So it's just left for me to thank you for listening. Please subscribe and like where possible, wherever you get your podcasts. Please check out Ralph's Daily Diary at www.etims.net. If you can, please follow Hector and I on Twitter at etimsnet. Monty's also there and Ralph's also there. You'll see those interactions.
We've blocked Monty and Ralph on Twitter.
Oh, did we? Oh, yeah. Hector did go on a blocking spree recently, to be fair to him. Mostly with anybody doing analytics. But that's for another podcast.
But that was another. Did you know somebody X66 this, and that meant he should have got a lot of shite. For Christ's sake, can they not just enjoy the football?
Oh, the guy who likes to enjoy is getting beat.
All I'm going to say cryptically, as you see me knocking out a couple of emails, is just be careful who you block, given the new CEO is going to be announced in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, you heard it there from the man in the know. Just be careful who you block.
What did they say? The interview?
It's not Paul 67, is it?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Have we got to unblock him now, Desi?
Not at liberty to say, but let's just say that he was a friend of the site until you fell out with him, allegedly.
Is this why Big Paul? Oh no, I know exactly who you're talking about. A man who's involved in a certain analytics piece of software.
Oh, fuck off.
Word on
Ralph's pal and God's pal.
Jesus, we're fucked if he gets that one.
If anyone
I literally got it as we've been talking. I got a note saying you're not going to believe who I heard got the gig.
If anyone wants to go to Lake Como, if anyone wants to go to Lake Como in a Mitchell self-hired van, well, that makes I believe I'm correct there, Monty.
That may or may not have been who the email did.
Yeah, there you go. A big review at the end there. Hopefully that was worth waiting for, everyone. Just left for me to say thanks to the guys for joining. Thank you, Hector, Ralph and Monty. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks, lads.
And
Enjoyed it.
hopefully, as Monty used to say, hopefully we live in interesting times and we'll see how it goes over the next 2 weeks at Aberdeen, then following up Motherwell, and we'll probably be back on after the Motherwell game. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. My name is Desmond. Good night.